Okay, welcome aboard, everyone. We call the meeting to order. Could we review the minutes, please, for January 24th? If there are no questions or concerns, I would accept a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Financial reports.
Fund balance is $918,534.89, and we have one claim for Stone Municipal for $2,600.
Okay, would I accept a motion to approve paper for the claims
I'll make a motion.
and a financial report nationally? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. You've got the floor, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I'll give you a couple updates. One, Market Street Plaza, with the cold weather, we've been sitting on that for a little bit. The street department's now putting the fill in the inside, getting it compacted up. Hopefully today, I'll be getting all the electrical equipment ordered to start doing the install, the meter base and the panel, so we can get the inspection approved so Duke can pull the main power in. I want to give them plenty of time because I know they're behind on getting their new services in, but so we're going to install the conduit and then Duke's just going to pull the wire in. So we'll have all that done. So we want to start moving on that because celebration will be here quickly and I want plenty of time to get everything wired up, busted up before we get running on this thing. So as soon as we get all the subsoil work done, Paul will be coming in and start doing the concrete. I still want that 30-day cure though on that concrete before it gets cold. So I'm still watching the weather closely. One of the things, Adam, I want to have Adam, we've been in some discussions. We don't really know what it's going to look like with what the legislator is doing with the property taxes. I am not pursuing any TIF projects right now because if they reduce those and we have a TIF project and we can't meet those bond payments, then the city's on the hook making those bond payments.
Right.
So I hate that more than anything because it's detrimental to our growth. Fortunately, we're safe on the Wazada because those don't make our bond payments. That TIF, the money rolls through us through their property taxes, then it rolls 100% back to the company, whoever owns the bonds. So really, and the property owners owns the bonds. So if they're paying less on taxes, they're receiving less, but it's a wash.
Right.
So unfortunately, that is the worst TIF possible to write when they did that. Fortunately, because what the state's doing to us, it's protecting the city right now. So, but going forward, I'm on pause.
We'll hold for a bit.
With TIF. Well,
that's probably good.
They're making it impossible for us to TIF projects right now. So that being said, I'm really just on pause right now until I see the impact of what the state's going to do. Because a typical TIF project, Adam, you can probably explain this better than I can. I'm going to keep it simple. Was we capture those future property taxes, we have a bond payment, we bring those property tax in, the proceeds make those bond payments. Well, if they reduce that value of that property, we will not collect enough money to make those bond payments. So we have to subsidize with the general fund to make those bond payments. Does that sound pretty accurate to you, Adam?
Mayor, yeah, that's great.
So I'm really just kind of sitting on pause because I don't know what they're going to do. And Adam and I have been talking quite a bit. I've been talking with a bunch of different mayors and financial people, just trying to understand the impact. No one knows at this point, but we think the greatest impact on the taxpayer is going to be on the 3%, which is the commercial side, not the residential side. So they're selling it as residential, but it's really going to benefit the 3%ers better because of those tax caps. Does that sound correct, Adam?
Yep.
So we're really watching this. I hate to put it on pause because you know me, I do not like to stop.
Right.
But I'm on pause until I can find a better way to do this. And right now, I don't know what that is.
Mayor, can I add a few points?
Yes, sir.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, is everyone sort of up to speed on what Senate Bill 1, the most recent amendments, are proposing?
Yes.
Okay. And commissioners as well?
I can't answer that, Adam. I know I'm following it very closely.
I would like a overview.
Okay. Yeah, the bill, as you can imagine, is very long. But in like a concise overview, the property tax impacts are really coming from probably largely two or three factors. One is it is creating a new type of property tax cap that does not currently exist. And essentially, what it's doing is it's creating a growth cap on the specific levy that the community can establish. So there is already a cap, if you will, on that, but that cap has been historically tied to payrolls, Indiana payrolls, over a 6-year average. What the bill is proposing is to basically override that and cap growth to be 0% next year, 1% the year following, 2%, et cetera. And that is probably the most severe constraint. And then secondly, it introduces some new deduction thresholds for certain age and income-based qualifications. It adjusts percent growth caps by specific thresholds. It creates a deferral of excess taxes upon sale, puts some restrictions on, dramatically changes how a levy appeals are done in fast-growing communities. So it's pretty extensive as far as the measures that are being taken to try to limit property taxes. So from a taxpayer perspective, you know it's clear to see why property taxpayers would be in support of the bill. When you think about it from a city's perspective, though, more than half of your budget is funded by that revenue source. If you imagine, your personal business, if you imagine like half of that, revenue is capped by the state to not grow for 4 years, that would be a pretty distressful situation. And that's essentially what is being talked about. So where, without getting into the politics, because that's not my expertise, as we look at the impacts here, you've got a disproportionate share of this hitting the general fund of, municipalities. And the general fund is largely police, fire, and EMS. So where there's a natural friction with SB1 is you have the fund that essentially provides the public safety salaries, which are all union negotiated positions. And in a capped revenue growth scenario, we just get into this really sort of unique situation where we have labor inflation in a fund that its revenues by the state are basically, restricted. So that is a high level overview. What I should also say is the initial bill as proposed was pretty draconian. I mean, it was about a 30% reduction in revenues, about a $1.6 billion impact to cities, towns, and schools in the state of Indiana. The second round of amendments have improved it considerably, but it is still a pretty major impact from a go forward. So it's not proposing reducing any existing revenues. It's essentially installing new caps on how fast those revenues can grow in the future. So it's, for those of you that are familiar with the opportunity cost concept, it's very much that. It's the state is very clearly indicating that for communities to be able to grow and pay for services, they have to look at funding mechanisms beyond and separate from property tax, which is it's quite undefined in the legislation, but it's pretty clear the state is basically just asking local communities to sort of figure out how else they can pay for these services. So that is where it's at. I am not one to overreact to legislation, because the reality is it is not enacted law. It'll probably change again. They're just past halfway in session. But this is something that is pretty critical. We need to be paying attention to it. And we are. In consult with the mayor, I think there's going to be something passed here. And what we'll do is we will wait to see what the final bill language is, and then we'll put together a specific plan of action to sort of navigate that. Because what I will say is that this is in the order of magnitude of like the property tax cap legislation that went into effect, a decade or so ago. It is that sort of extensive and far-reaching. With that said, if you look at the city, today the city is operating and doing what it needs to do in spite of those property tax caps. So I think what we'll find is you'll see cities that, learn to navigate through this, and you'll see cities that don't. And I think what we'll want to do is just kind of keep monitoring this. So why are we bringing this up at the Redevelopment Commission? One is your revenue source is property tax revenue. So while it is called TIF and tax increment finance revenue, it is just property tax revenue. This is a massive change to the way property tax revenue is levied and billed. Therefore, we want to make sure you have exposure to it. Additionally, looking at sort of some of the second and third order consequences of the proposed legislation, if you have, without getting too much in the weeds here, they're effectively creating a situation where tax rates will go down. And that is actually negative to redevelopment commissions. Tax rates going down is you're capturing TIF revenue based on the tax rates. So it's sort of an interesting situation here. Now, when we look at Connorsville, you do not have nearly the exposure that some other redevelopment commissions have. The one RDC debt you have, Wayzata, is a pledged economic development bond. So that risk is really on Wayzata. There's really no risk on the city or redevelopment commission for that one. But to the mayor's point, this definitely would impact, kind of future project planning and sort of the return on investment analysis of a future project. So I think it is wise at this point, just given where they're at in session and how sort of major this proposed legislation would be, is to just sort of sit tight, take a deep breath, wait to see what the final bill looks like. And then we can, once we know what the final language is, we can create a sort of a new playbook, if you will, to sort of how to not only survive, but still thrive in that sort of new set of rules. And the faster we can adopt the sort of new framework, the better we can get Connorsville back from a redevelopment commission standpoint, making sure we're using the latest and greatest laws, rules, and set of facts to drive that development. So I'm speaking on my phone here. Did that all come through? Is there any questions I can answer?
Yep, came through fine.
Good job.
Just on top of that, when this first came out, I was spending personally, I don't know, countless hours just trying to show the legislators the facts. This is what it is. This is what's going to do. And this is I spent, I don't know how many hours just building it and then sharing it with them. When I took my trip to the State House, I spoke with not just our legislators, I spoke with a bunch of legislators. Well, there's one thing that always tells the truth, and that's body language. Mm-hmm. Their body language said, this is coming. Everything they said, this is coming. They're going to give the governor a win on something. I just don't know how much. So I really shifted gears. I called out, I was like, we got to shift gears here, because It's not that they're not listening to us. They understand it completely.
Mhm.
They're just going in this direction, so we gotta figure out a different way. So I pulled in even all department heads. I said, we gotta have hard cost first. I want to know what every hard cost is. We know electric's going up 16% next year. That's a big one. So I want hard costs like that. And then we can look at all of our soft costs and say, what can we maneuver around and do whatever. And that's why I put the brakes on all new growth, because we saw what was happening with TIF. I was like, I'm not doing that. So I'm not just, I am in a wait and see mode, but I'm already in that planning mode. This is coming. How do we survive this? What can we do differently? And Adam and I has multiple conversations. I sometimes I ask the dumbest questions, like just trying to find, hey, can we do this and different things? What are our options here? And that's really the path I'm down now. I've kind of succumbed to the fact that this is coming, and I'm not fighting it anymore because it's coming. So I'm trying to be proactive on how do we stay solvent, how can we still continue providing the services we need to continue to provide, and how do we do that? So that's kind of where I'm at right now with it. And Adam's been a great resource. I love it because I pick his brain a lot. Sometimes he's just like, "No, Mayor, you can't do that." I'm like, but we'll figure out a way. I guess is my point. Now, well, how's that look for redevelopment commission? I don't have a clue, because that is our only funding mechanism right now. We don't have a funding mechanism, period, for redevelopment commission. The money we have is through land that we sold that was given to a grant for an IT park. We have to use that for uh, economic growth, which is Market Street Plaza, and the other one was when the first owner was filed for I don't know if they filed for bankruptcy. We got bankruptcy notices and other things. Well, I got the attorneys involved to protect the city, and technically by their contract they owed us money for the proceeds of the sale. So we spent, I don't know how long, renegotiating that contract and really just kind of, I don't want to say put pressure on, but put pressure on them because we had them, but they were trying to get out of it. And we was able to secure a contract by giving them an extension that still allowed us to capture, how much was that? Do you remember? 900,000? Between 700,000 and 900,000, I don't remember, because of their failed contract obligation. That cost me, I don't remember, 8-10 grand to get that done, but it protected the city. So that's how we've derived our funds. We have no funding mechanism. Your redevelopment commissions are funded via TIF projects. That's how you fund stuff. Or that's not how you fund the redevelopment. That's how you fund future projects for the redevelopment commission. So they're taking those tools away from us. So that's in a 30,000-foot view. That's why I've halted the brakes. It's like, because people don't understand growth costs us a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't have the money to provide that, and it also increases my services I got to provide. Well, if I can't provide those services, attracting growth doesn't do us any good.
Right.
I'll make the new company mad or whatever, and they'll leave and go somewhere else. They don't go to that town. They can't help do what they're supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've paused the brakes, or I got to find another way to do stuff, which is currently where my brain's at right now. I know that was a large overview. Anybody
That's
got any
okay.
questions for me and Adam or anybody, Rosemary? Because she's very involved in this as well. I just try not to brainstorm with her because she beats me over the head. You can't do that.
Good job, Rosemary. Okay. Anything else for us, Mr. Mayor?
I think that's all I have right now.
Okay. Thank you. EDG updates. Dan is not with us today, but they are still looking for a new director for EDG. I don't think there's no decision been made yet.
Not I'm aware of.
Yeah.
They have good candidates.
I don't even know. The executive
Well,
committee handles all that.
on it.
So
Yeah. Any new business to discuss?
It's on hold.
Everything's on hold.
Everything's on hold.
That's right.
yes and no.
Yes and no.
Will this stop any of the current progress?
We did not use TIF for that.
I didn't think so.
We did not have TIF in place. If I would have had TIF in place, it would have been a lot
Yeah.
easier, but we did not have TIF in place.
But we might be exposed, if we had.
Yeah, we would be exposed.
Yeah.
Just for the best.
So fortunately, and Adam came and discussed this. One of the tools we used was tax abatements on the business personal property.
Mhm.
We spent a lot of time on that. Adam, do you know where legislation's at with that? Because is that still looking to be reduced or done away with?
Yeah, the latest I have heard is that is losing support. So I think a lot of the chambers in Indiana have actually kind of flipped on that, but I would say it's hard to tell where it's going to fall. But from what I have heard, they're kind of backing off the business personal property.
I did not look at that last vote to see where it was, so that one I do apologize, but that one impacts us as well.
Right.
The business personal property. So that was the only incentive we had at the time, so we used that. And I don't remember, it was a 10-year abatement, but I think it was accelerated after 5 years. Is that correct, Adam? You remember?
That's right.
Okay. So we really won't collect anything for the first 5 years, and then we'll do a graduated for the next 5 years. But if the state was to do away with that, then we're out on that as well. That really wouldn't impact us or them because that's money they're paying that they'll just keep anyway. So,
Wow. Anything else to bring forward under new business?
Nope.
No? Yeah, our next meeting is scheduled for March 28th. 9 a.m. as usual. And with that being said, I would accept a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion. Oh, you got a motion?
We got a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thanks.